I'm here with Patrick Moynihan, a Masterworks alumni. He has come down from Ottawa, Canada from Augustine College with his friend John Schwartz, and I wanted to ask them a little bit about Augustine College. So Patrick, you got accepted to USC. Kind of talk a little bit about what sent you in that direction.
Sure, the whole process. You know, essentially from Masterworks onward, actually since the time I was pretty young, I'd known that I wanted to do acting. Passion, love, something that God's just put in my heart. And so I'd known that I wanted that, but I also started looking at schools that I knew would have a good business, finance, accounting program because I wanted a backup as well, something that I could use. And clearly those two complement each other, a lot of business and acting in business. And so I had narrowed it down to about 6 or 7 schools where I auditioned then for the theater program. So New York University, University of Southern California. And so I was accepted at basically all of them. And so I chose USC mostly based on a scholarship, but also because of the strength of both their business and their theater programs. So that's how I ended up at USC.
And John, you're heading toward medicine.
Yep.
And talk a little bit about what you want to do with that.
Well, my parents were missionaries in Nepal for 11 years, so I grew up overseas, and kind of with this missionary background, I've been hoping to, well, if God calls me, to go back into the mission field. And so I feel that medicine is a good way to use my skills to serve God in whatever situation that would come up in, whether in Canada or overseas.
So what put you guys at Augustine?
Well, basically, I think two pretty different paths, but you graduated a year early from high school. And so in my senior year, as I was looking at USC, looking at all these applications, our dads, well, actually your dad and mom, right? Mm-hmm. And my dad, part of Christian Medical and Dental Association, so CMDA. And they're nationwide or they're worldwide? I want to say
I think it's Canada and States only.
Okay, yeah. So they're but a large organization, just kind of a coalition of Christian doctors and dentists. And so we were out. In my case, we were out at one of the conferences near our home, and the president of Augustine College, John Patrick, who's a pretty well-known Christian apologist, was invited to speak. He's a medical doctor, did a lot of research in tropical areas, tropical disease, malnutrition in children, things like that. And so he gave lectures for a weekend, and we were unbelievably impressed. Clearly a man who knows what he's talking about, a wise man, a man who had wandered away from God, and come back, and all the experience and wisdom that brings. And so just incredible. And so I approached him, my family approached him as well. And we basically, we broached the subject of college and secular university, and feeling like in many programs, at least for an acting school or maybe for a business school, unfortunately there isn't a Christian school that can compete with a New York University, with a USC in a secular environment. And so wanting to go that route based on the opportunities that would provide if God can use people in those schools, first of all as lights, and second of all using those degrees as a springboard to go out into the secular atmosphere and workforce. And so we just asked him about a way that we could maybe combine Christian learning, secular university, and he mentioned that he was the president of a teeny little program up in Ottawa, Canada.
And how many students are there?
22
of us. And in fact, this is actually the biggest year ever for the school. So last year, I want to say they had, was it 8 or 12?
Yeah, it was pretty small.
Are there advantages to that, though?
Certainly. And that's one of the things he talked about, as he said, check out the program, check out the website, and you look at the alumni, and they're quality kids. I mean, it's a wonderful program, but based on mostly his connections, but also the connections of other professors, they've all gone on to do extraordinary things. One of the girls a few years ago went on to get her PhD in physics at the University of Chicago. You have people at Oxford, people at Princeton, people kind of all over the map, and so that individualized attention where no one is able to just slough by, right? There's none of this. You're turning in a multiple choice exam. They're looking at your essays. They're looking at your work. and
They
making
call
sure
upon each person so that you have a community, and they really emphasize talking with the other students. And so your learning isn't just in the classroom, but it's connecting with the other students, talking about what you're learning in the classes. And so because of the small community, it's easier to foster those conversations at dinner time and stuff like that. And just that's where you really can get down and discuss what you've been learning.
So is it accredited? Are all these credits going toward your degree at a secular university?
It's a non-accredited university, but there are a lot of universities in the States and in Canada that our school has been able to connect with, and they've looked at what we're learning there, and they've acknowledged that this is quality education, and so they've given, in some cases, up to 2 years, but most
for the
cases,
1 year program.
for a 1 year program.
So
but
you're
in most
getting-
cases, I'm getting 42 credits for my year.
Spectacular.
Basically a year and a half. So while it's not all, I don't think it's technically accredited because it's not large enough, but based on, again, those connections that professors have. So we write numerous essays and have lots of sort of pieces of work, that we can put together a pretty reasonable portfolio. And so with that, the president, the dean, whatever, we'll talk, we'll have midterm interviews, we'll have things like that. And so when we're starting to think about schools needing our transcripts sent for them, I mean, this is a moot point for me because I'm on deferment. But it's been amazing to see. They'll just send a packet even before the student has applied and say, do you have any sophomore students who could write like this, who could do the work they're capable of doing? And then these Christian professors on the insides of these universities who are on faculty, on staff, will kind of go to bat for students and say, look, these kids deserve credit. So University of Chicago, Rice, Baylor. In fact, the man who was president of Baylor, who was actually kind of ousted for trying to re-Christianize Baylor, make it a really powerful Christian university, was one of the people who was this was sort of his baby, Augustine College. So lots of different universities, mostly on the East Coast. I know USC doesn't give any credit, but as I think this is our 14th graduating class, and as more kids graduate, do things, become professors, it's obviously gaining steam. So
it's wonderful.
It's a great place to be.
And are you hearing back from alumni that they do feel equipped when they step into a secular university?
Absolutely. Like, I haven't heard anyone. We have a lot of alumni who come back and visit around the college and connect with the students this year, and so none of them have said anything like that. They've all claimed that it's like really helped them, and a lot of them it's totally turned their lives around, like put them on a new track in their relationship with God and their purpose for the future.
And equipping them, not only academically exactly, but also spiritually. So far, there's an 100% success rate of keeping kids strong in their faith through university, and a couple notable examples of a girl in medical school debating a professor in class and leaving him speechless.
Wow.
As far as issues of abortion, issues that really, really matter for our day. And so clearly the apologetics we're learning, we take an entire trivium seminar, just grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So kind of working from the basics up of arguments, of making statements, of sort of being equipped to defend the faith that we hold.
Spectacular. Thanks, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Thank you.